Family system arrangement psychology. Before the beginning, I would like to briefly mention the current popular family system arrangement psychology, which was created by Bert Heilinger of Germany. Unlike other psychology, this doctrine involves the family system, or is related to cause and effect and co-karma, although its technical terms are different from Buddhism. 3 people in this family committed suicide at the age of 27. There is an amazing case in the arrangement of the family system. A famous lawyer came to Bert Hellinger, and he looked very uneasy, because he has done some research on family history. His great-grandmother knew a man, and the two got married soon, but unfortunately, on December 31st, when her husband was 27 years old when she died, some people suspected that her husband had been murdered. Later, his great-grandmother did not leave the inheritance of her ex-husband to the son born to her and her ex-husband, but to the son born to the second husband. This is an unfair treatment in the family. From that day on, 3 people in the family committed suicide at the age of 27, and all of them would die on December 31st. When the lawyer found out about it, he suddenly realized that his cousin was 27 years old and the date was close to December 31st. He rushed to his cousin. "There, I was about to remind him, but I found that my cousin had bought a gun and prepared to commit suicide." Soon after, the lawyer came to Heilinger again because he felt that he was suicidal. Hellinger asked him to face the wall. Imagine the appearance of the dead in a family, and then say to that person, "I respect you. You have a place in my heart, I will tell you the unfair treatment you have suffered." When the lawyer finished saying that, he suddenly found that he was no longer nervous and panicked. This is the principle discovered by Bert Heilinger. In a family system, which ancestor dies due to various disasters, the power of the system will find a child from future generations to replace the ancestor and repeat the same fate to maintain the balance and integrity of the system. Not to mention far away, there is one in my family. My uncle died of liver cancer not long ago, and his aunt, sister and eldest son all died of liver cancer. For example, a nephew may suddenly be magically attracted by his uncle who died during the war. Example description of home system arrangement. A phenomenon, the person concerned feels subconsciously have a connection with a family member or ancestor, often have similar feelings about life, and live a similar fate. In fact, one of the far-reaching discoveries of Bert Hellinger is that the children spent their whole lives taking on the previous family. The feelings and behaviors of the court members, those things that do not belong to them. Bert Heilinger named this phenomenon for entanglement. Affected children, even in adulthood, depression, guilt, suicidal thoughts or other psychological symptoms can often trace the hidden connection with a family member. As long as a person does not realize that he is entangled, he will often misunderstand his emotions and behaviors, and at the same time be affected or even controlled by these hidden connections. There may be a forgotten uncle in the family who was placed in a mental hospital, or an aunt may be mentally retarded or died prematurely. The grandfather once drank or lost all his family property. These will lead to some special meaning in the fate of one or more children in the family. They will have similar behaviors or extremely different and bumpy fates, even if these children never know their existence or don't know them. When certain events or family members are regarded as family secrets, the more destructive the effect is. Her and her daughter's depression originated from her dead brother. The case I saw in related home row books, Monica has been troubled by depression for many years, and she has considered suicide at its worst. Her depression seems to have also affected other members of the family. Recently, her 10-year-old daughter Catherine began to have the same problem. When Monica was asked if any members of her family had died long ago, she replied that when she was 3 years old, she had a 5-year-old brother who died in an accident. When Monica faced her brother, overcame her fear, and really looked at him, Monica bowed to her brother, a stranger representing her dead brother, and gave him full attention. And then she said to her brother, "You are my brother, but you passed away a long time ago. I respect you and your death. Please be happy for me. I am your sister. When I continue to survive, please be happy for me." His brother looked at Monica in a friendly way. Now Monica's fear of her brother has decreased, and she feels that she loves him very much. The heavy pressure that pushes her to death suddenly transforms into a positive vitality. Let us start with the first case. In that family, 3 people committed suicide at the age of 27, and all of them would die on December 31st. According to Heilinger, the reason for this situation is that the lawyer's great-grandmother did not leave her ex-husband's inheritance to her son with her ex-husband, but to the son born to her second husband. This is an unfair treatment in the family. Because of this reason, the conscience of the system will present this unfair treatment and choose future generations to repeat similar fates in order to maintain the balance and justice of the system. Heilinger thought it was the power of the system, but we learned from Buddhism that this case was obviously caused by the death of his great-grandmother's ex-husband. The solution is very simple, but it effectively avoids the tendency to commit suicide. It is about to solve the needs of the deceased. What does the deceased need? Gain venerable and recognized, not ignored, and at the same time, the resentment in the heart can be released. So when he said that he would respect him and say unfair treatment, the sense of suicidal oppression and impulse from the undead disappeared. Speaking of this, it also involves the problem of excess, that is, it must meet the needs of the dead, not compulsory excess, otherwise no matter how many sutras you recite, it is still unsuccessful. In the last realistic case, a man asked tens of thousands of monks in Yajing Temple to visit his father. But Brother Myashin observed that his father was still at home and refused to leave. Why? Persistent, can he let go? The man's dream and feelings are also consistent with what his brother observed. What is the purpose of the lawyer's case mentioned by Heilinger? Solve the impulse to commit suicide. The core problem is to let the unjustly treated undead go. How can I leave? To meet their needs, that is, to be respected and express dissatisfaction. It's that simple. He doesn't need complicated religious rituals. This gives us a very important inspiration. Many people suffer from mental illness, depression, serious illness, possession, or infantile problems. Although they recite a lot of sutras, they still can't solve it. The main fundamental thing is to give the non-human spiritual body what it needs and make it go. Just like some people who died unjustly, with heavy obsession and resentment, you recite a lot of scriptures and return to him in the Pure Land. However, he has no concept of the Pure Land, and all he thinks about is revenge, so the effect of excess is very weak. Last time, a female resident in Guangzhou, on the first anniversary of her father's death, she also made a lot of merits. But Brother Myashin saw that he was still downstairs, accompanied by his brother who died young and the child who had an abortion. She also felt that her father had not been born. The elder brother advised her to remember to overdo the father's brother and children, otherwise she couldn't overdo it. This is actually very humane. Compare your heart to your heart. You are now in the world, and you have your own sons and brothers living together. One day, suddenly someone keeps urging you to leave this world, leave your loved ones, go to heaven, and go to the Pure Land. I'm afraid that most people can't let go, let alone the sentient beings in the ghost path. But if you and your family go to the Pure Land of Buddha, they will go there happily. It is very complicated about the things in the legal world. So I repeatedly emphasize the origin. Fate. It should be considered from specific details, not generalized. In the past, some people's mothers recited sutras for many years, but Myashin looked at it and was still below. He firmly didn't believe it. He felt that after reciting so many sutras, how could he fall into evil? As soon as I heard it, I suddenly felt puzzled. Who told you that if you can recite the straw, you will not fall into evil? These are the results of many people's lack of predestination to think. For example, holding a spell is divided into distinctions such as recitation, achievement, etc. There are also differences in the upper, middle and lower 3 grades of achievements. Being able to recite spells does not mean that there is a Dharma test, and having a Dharma test does not mean an achievement. If you practice, it is very difficult to be born at the end of your life. The key to all this lies in whether the delusion in the mind gradually disappears and gradually enters the samadhi, which corresponds to the original. And the release has nothing to do with the form of practice. For example, King Ashoka, according to the history of Indian Buddhism by Venerable Dharona, such a great emperor, who protected Buddhism all his life, supported countless arhat monks and pagodas, and also practiced Buddhism relentlessly. But when he was dying, when a maid shook the handle of the treasure, she dozed off because of the heat during the day. And the dust fell from her hand and fell on the king. The king thought, in the past, some great kings also washed my feet and so on. Now such a cheapest servant despises me. Died in anger. Due to the anger, he was born as a dragon in the great lake of Belize city. However, because of his great blessing and the blessing of the great Luohan, he was soon reincarnated into the sky and received victory. If from considering a single causal thinking, some people say that such a great Buddhist guardian as Ashoka king has fallen into a dragon. How is it possible? Cause and effect are not abstract theoretical concepts, but concrete and subtle, not taken for granted. Dying thought is very important. If you have cultivated blessings all your life, and you are in chaos at the end, and have anger and lingering heart, this subtle fate cannot be passed. And you will fall straight into 3 paths after death. And what about those blessings? It is a far-term cause, and it will only appear when the future world is mature. Having said so much is just to explain. Don't take cause and effect for granted. The origin of the Dharma world is very complex, and specific problems should be analyzed in detail. Back to the second case of Heilinger's family system above, Monica said to her dead brother, "You are my brother, but you passed away a long time ago. I respect you and your death. Please be happy for me. I am your sister. When I continue to survive, please be happy for me." Monica's words are very in line with psychology, just like her sister's love for her brother. After she sincerely said it, her brother heard it in the underworld and would recognize her sister because she was happy because she was the sister of Yangshi and thought about herself. Naturally, the urge to depression and suicide was suddenly lifted. Because he is willing to leave, instead of interfering with his sister's life, he is willing to take on the responsibility of being a brother. The relationship between ancestors and the fate of future generations in feng shui, ancestral graves, that is, the underworld, are very important. I have read books on feng shui before and know some simple theories. A master of feng shui can determine how many descendants of this family are based on a person's ancestral grave. Life expectancy, marriage, wealth and fortune can all be broken. The core of the theory of feng shui lies in the yin virtue of the ancestors, which is fundamental. From their appearance, it has become the life restraint of the 5 elements of yin and yang. Master Yin Guang once said in the book of a scholar with Yongjia, "If you have a hair armor hair, produce." Subject examination name, armor. Refers to civil and military officials, all of whose grandfathers have great virtues. If there is no yin virtue and it is caused by manpower, there will be a great disaster in the future. It is better not to send it. Looking at the lives of great saints and sages in ancient times and modern times, they are all caused by their grandfather's accumulation of virtue. The same is true for the rich and noble. If you go to investigate the history of a family, according to the virtues of its ancestors, can be judged at a glance whether its descendants are prosperous and developed. The rise and fall of a family is by no means accidental. In the 4 precepts of the Fan, there is such a story. There is a man who has been a young teacher, surnamed Yang Mingrong, who is from Jianing, Fujian province. His family has been ferrying for generations. Once, it rained for too long, and the stream was full of water, and the water was surging and rampant, washing away all the houses, and the drowned people flowed down the water. Other ships went to fish out all kinds of goods floating in the water. Only the great-grandfather and grandfather of the young master specially went to rescue the victims who drifted in the water, but they did not fish for any of the property. The villagers sneered that they were fools. After the young master's father was born, the family gradually became richer. There was an immortal who turned into a Taoist priest and said to the father of the young master, "Your grandfather and father have accumulated a lot of Yanggong. And the descendants born should develop and become high officials. You can bury your father somewhere." Hearing this, the young master's father buried his grandfather and father in the place designated by the Taoist priest. This grave is the White Rabbit grave that everyone knows now. Later, the young master was born, and at the age of 20, he was a scholar. "I have been an official all the time, and I have been a young master of 3 kilometers. The emperor also posthumously awarded his great-grandfather, grandfather and father, with the same official position as the young master. Moreover, the descendants of the young master are very prosperous, and there are still many virtuous people. In fact, the relationship between ancestors and descendants is a relationship between karma and co-karma. For example, an ancestor with great virtue, the descendants he inspired must be blessed sentient beings. Thus, in terms of fate, there is a blessing. The Chinese often say, the ancestors planted trees, and the descendants took advantage of the cold. Buddha can protect future generations, and it is true. Confucianism will be cautious in the end. The ancestors are like the roots of a big tree, and the descendants are like flowers and fruits. Therefore, filial piety is in the way of heaven, and the family of filial piety to the elders will not be much worse. And often being able to transcend and do merit for ancestors is a great trick to change fate. Brother Miashin observes the second rule of the case 1. Hello, Brother King Lianchi, my son suffers from epilepsy, my husband has viral cirrhosis nodules, epilepsy, prostatitis and schizophrenia. I can hold things on both shoulders. Please let Brother Miashin watch it. Our whole family will be very grateful. My son can be cured after taking medicine for many years, and he is very anxious to go to work soon. My husband devotes his best to chanting Buddha every day, and he has improved. Brother Miashin replied after observation, the family's ancestral grave was destroyed, and the bones were incomplete. Jusho replied, that's true. When my father-in-law was alive, he had a lawsuit with his mother. After grandma died, my father-in-law said that his mother's ashes were moved from the cemetery to other places, and we don't know where they were moved. Our juniors thought he was saying it, but it seemed to be true. My son got this disease after the death of my father-in-law, and my husband's luck also plummeted, and he got a variety of diseases. Hello, senior brother Kinglianchi. I saw your article in the blog of Brother Shueika from Huxenting. After reading it, it was very useful, and I understood a lot of truths and inexplicable things. I have something to beg my brother to help me. It's about my eldest sister, who has been mentally ill for 30 years. She also believes in Buddhism when she is not sick. Reciting Buddha, reading scriptures, and getting sick will change. Unfortunately, her life was very frustrated. Her husband died of illness within a few years of marriage and had no children. Now the eldest sister is over 50 years old. She has been hospitalized for 14 years and got sick again. She has not improved so far. Now he is hospitalized again. The doctor has no good choice. Therefore, I especially beg you, please help me ask Brother Miashin what to do, how to really benefit the eldest sister and the predestined sentient beings. My mother is 80, and I'm heartbroken for her. I haven't given up over the years and have been looking for it, but I haven't seen any results. Brother Miashin replied, the ancestral grave has been handed with, that is, applying evil charms to the ancestral grave, etc. Brother Miashin often observes that many people's marriages are not smooth, terminal illness, bankruptcy, etc. are all related to ancestral graves. For the destruction of ancestral graves, or water entering and being pressed by things, it will lead to problems for future generations. Such realistic cases are common in my hometown. It's better to adjust it in reality. When the senior brother of Sichuan first saw Donjin Rongpa Rinpoche, the living Buddha told him that his family offended the local dragon because of the ancestral grave problem, which affected the health of future generations. If you really can adjust it on the spot, you can use the fate diagram of the Miashin brother to set up a plaque for the ancestors. Print the tombstone map, write the name information of the ancestors, recite the sutra back, and burn it for them. Jizong Bodhisattva and strong earth gods protect all the ancestors on their earth. If you read the Jizong Sutra carefully, it is not difficult to find that there is a common merit in the sutra that other classics do not have, that is, the ancesterization, which is also corresponding to the filial piety contained in the Jizong Sutra. The light-eyed girl set up a blessing for her mother. Then from mother, personal filial piety, to great filial piety to all sentient beings like a mother, so she made such a great wish. May I have the world, all hell, and the three evil ways in the past, but in the hundreds of billions of disasters, I hope that from now on, I will have the world, all hell, and the three evil ways. All sins make sentient beings suffer. I vow to save and pull out, and leave the bad taste of hell, beasts and hungry ghosts, etc. If you repay the sins and wait for others, you will become a Buddha. Unexpectedly. Then I became righteous. Among the Earth God protection products of the Jizong Sutra, the strong Earth God mentioned the merit of offering Jizong Bodhisattva in the south. First, the land is rich. The second is the family is safe forever. The third is to die first. The fourth is the existing life. The fifth is to fulfill the wishes. The sixth is the fire without water. The seventh is the waste. Eighth is to eliminate nightmares. The ninth is to enter and exit the divine protection. The 10th is to encounter many holy causes. It should be noted that these 10 merits and benefits are revealed from the Dharma of the Earth's hidden Bodhisattva and the firm Earth God. They start from the Earth, and their order is a kind of order and should not be confused. The fourth and fifth, longevity and what you want, are all based on the rich soil of the land where you live. The house is stable young house. And the first death is above the skying house. When the world venerable finally preached about the 28 merits of the practice of the underground storage method, he mentioned one interest, death first and separation from suffering. The underground scriptures value filial piety, and there are merits and virtues that lead to the loss of interests in two places. It also refers to the interests of the ancestors, and there are also scriptures such as the Bao Chi Yin Jing. The scripture cloud, if there is a wicked man who dies and falls into hell, suffers endlessly, and is exempted from leaving for no time. There are descendants, calling the name of the dead, chanting the mantra, until 7 times, the foreign copper hot iron suddenly turns into a pool of 8 merits and virtue. The lotus is born, the treasure is covered at the top, the door of hell is broken, the Bodhi way is opened. And the lotus is like flying to the blissful world, all kinds of wisdom naturally appear, and the joy is endless, the position in the supplementary office. It should be noted that if you recite the scriptures 7 times, you can take your ancestors to the world of bliss. It must be this descendant who has achieved certain achievements by practicing the treasure in Rani. Its magic power can change the origin of the Dharma world. Usually, ordinary people's recitation can achieve this merit of going straight to blissful, but reciting is beneficial to the ancestors. The God of the firm earth is the God of the earth. The whole Saha world and the whole land of the earth are hers. She can protect the feng shui, ancestral graves and ancestors of a place. Therefore, if you want to suppress the house and change the feng shui of the house, you should often offer it to the earth as hidden bodhisattva. Or add to the strong prison of the earth god. The land of the earth is all heaven and earth, and the feng shui of a family is out of the question for her. If you want to change your fate, you must pay attention to filial piety to your ancestors. You can recite the Jizang Sutra, the Jizang holy name, the treasure Indrani, and the strong divine mantra to return to the ancestors. Only when the roots are deep can they be firm, and only when the source is far can it be long. If you burn the tombstone map to your ancestors, remember to practice the underground hiding method and the strong underground divine method to get the effect quickly. When your life is very confused, helpless, sad and full of obstacles, please connect with your ancestors and do merit and return to them. Or every day as homework, add your ancestors when you go back, because they are your roots. Method 1. Chant the mantra back in the south. There is no Buddha as heart, the secret, the whole body, the treasure, the Indrani scriptures, the spell. The tower stud or the treasure, the Indrani 108 times or 1,000 times Nama hides Bodhisattva 1,000 times, 10,000 times firm goddess heart spell. Om Billy TV Yesvaha 8,000 times bright mantra. Om Amoga, outside Rujya, Mahamudra, Manabad, and Wala, Balavaldea turn round Siang. May this merit and virtue return to XXX ancestors of all generations. The residence is stable and auspicious, the karma is clear, the wisdom is clear. The suffering is happy, and the birth of heaven or the Buddha as pure land is the proof of Bodhi. Method 2. Turn to the tombstone map, recite the sutra back and burn it. Method 3. Next to the ancestral grave, put Lihan's Jizang Sutra broadcasting machine. Method 4. Sprinkle the special made light sand, recite the light mantra 100,000 times, support the earth, sand and rice, and sprinkle it on the ancestral grave. Or it can be sprinkled on the pictures of ancestral plaques and tombstones, which can benefit the ancestors of the Dharma world. If the ancestors have a bad or even painful life in the Dharma world, it is impossible for future generations to thrive for a long time. They have inextricably linked with their descendants. If you become a Buddha in the future, the closest relatives and wrongful creditors to you are all the bodhisattvas at the Dharma meeting. Therefore, whether from filial piety or from the origin of the Dharma world, it is very important to do merit and virtue to support the ancestors. Bert Hellinger agreed with the fact that Chinese Confucianism often advocated frequent ancestor worship. For example, when he dealt with some cases of women's divorce and serious illness due to abortion, his guidance made women recognize the existence of children. Give respect and love, and leave a place for children who are not in the world in their hearts. In this way, many major obstacles to reality may have a fundamental turning point. An ancestor may disappear and be forgotten from the family system due to car accidents, murders and wars. The system will select some people from other people in the family to replace them in order to maintain the integrity and fairness of the conscience of the system. Falling in the fetal family, some couples later gave birth to their children, extreme rebellion, manicism, or autism, depression, suicide, serious illness. This is the power of the system as conscience, which makes this living child repeat and replace the role of the aborted child. This is from the perspective of family system arrangement psychology. If from the perspective of Buddhism, it is the invisible interference of implicit and axless relatives. They seek relief in the warmth and love of their loved ones. Therefore, if it can be transcendent, so that it is born in heaven, pure land, or the most realistic, let it put down its obsession and enjoy peace in the underworld, then many people's mental problems, depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, terminal illness, doom, car accidents, etc., will disappear. May it be auspicious.